about why I started my business, Rompiendo Barreras, to teach Spanish conversation online. So there's a couple of different reasons that play into it, but I'll give you a little bit of background on me so you can help you understand how this all came about and why it's so important to me. So I started studying Spanish when I was 12 years old. I was in middle school. That was the earliest that Spanish was available to me in my area at that time. And I immediately fell in love with the language. I thought it was beautiful and fascinating and romantic and poetic. And I loved it. So I continued studying Spanish throughout high school, and I went to college studying Spanish, decided to major in it. I loved it so much. And I knew since my very young age of 12 years old that I wanted to go to Spain, where Spanish originated, and I wanted to study abroad there and immerse myself in the culture and the language. So I went there in 2009. I had a fantastic experience. I really loved it. And that just further cemented my love of the Spanish language. So I came back to the US, graduated college with a degree in math, and then shortly thereafter, I started working for the local government because in the area where I lived, there weren't a lot of Spanish-speaking jobs, and I wasn't willing to commute several hours to Washington, D.C. each day in order to have a Spanish-speaking job. So I thought, this will be a good way for me to get off my feet and just kind of start saving some money and that kind of thing, work my way up, get some professional work experience. So I did, and the job was fine. It was interesting. There's nothing, was nothing terrible about it. But after a few years of doing that, I realized that I just wasn't really being true to myself, and I hardly ever practiced my Spanish, and it just didn't feel right. Like I wanted to be doing Spanish all the time, and I didn't know quite what that would look like. Originally, I thought maybe I wanted to be an interpreter. It's very hard to get into that field without any work experience. It's very hard to get any work or volunteer experience without any previous experience, so it's kind of a catch-22. I knew I didn't want to be a translator, which is like the interpreters for the spoken Spanish and translators for the written Spanish, because I did some volunteer work as a translator, and I realized that sitting by myself in a room with a bunch of books every day was not something I wanted to do. I'm a people person. I enjoy interacting with others. So I noticed, after kind of mulling this idea over, like, okay, I want to do something related to Spanish, but what's it going to be? I don't want to teach in the public schools or the private schools. I'm not sure how I could go about being an interpreter, and I don't want to be a translator, so what else is there? And at that time, I realized that I had several friends that were also adults that were interested in learning Spanish. And I thought about it. I was like, there actually are a lot of adults here in the US that want to learn to speak Spanish as an adult. Either maybe they have some background in it previously from high school, college, or learning on their own, or maybe they don't. But, there's a lot of opportunity to speak Spanish. So if you want to travel to Central or South America or Spain, even for a lot of different jobs, Spanish is involved, whether it's working with coworkers, clients, bosses, international branches of your company, whatever. There's a lot involved there. And depending on where you live, there could be a need for speaking Spanish. So there are a lot of different reasons that people want to learn Spanish. And I decided that I would start teaching conversational Spanish online. So I like teaching online, and actually I've been teaching and tutoring for over 10 years now. And I've been learning Spanish for over 15 years now, and I have done a lot of in-person teaching and tutoring, and it is a good way to go about it, but I actually prefer the online teaching for two reasons. Number one, for me personally, I really enjoy traveling, and I've started taking small group immersion adventure trips to Spanish-speaking countries with my business, so that's really awesome, being able to travel, whether it's locally within the US for small weekend trips or whatever, and still be able to work as long as I have internet connection, or whether it's for my business. But for my students, I really like being able to teach online because I can pull up Google Documents and we can both be typing back and forth, and we can have these notes preserved forever. We can record our lessons, so if you want to rewatch them, you can. You have those resources. And we can still do homework. My students can submit homework to me. I can assign homework to them. I can grade it, send stuff back and forth. I feel like with the online platforms and the technology we have available today, it's very easy to work together in that way. And honestly, recently I did a little bit of Spanish teaching in person, and I just found that I like it better online because of the interface of being able to type back and forth, being able to speak and record. It's just really nice. It's just really nice way to go about doing Spanish, and it's basically got this all the same benefits as working person to person. Like you can still see my mouth moving and the different, you can hear the sounds that are coming out and see my hand gestures and my expressions, and all that will help to convey what I'm saying. But also it has the benefit of, like I said, being recorded, having the notes there, rather than, when you're both writing back on the same piece of paper, it's a little hard to keep track of stuff. And it's just, I don't know, I just find that it's easier and a more effective way of teaching Spanish. So I have really, really enjoyed the work that I've been doing with this business, which has been open for about 2 years now, since 2015. So it's really, really enjoyable for me, and that's kind of how it all came about. I also, another part to this business that caused me to start it was, when I was in college, I did a volunteer project where I volunteered with different organizations in my community to see what some of the Latino needs were. So some of the needs were help with filling out forms, help with interpretation to schedule appointments, and help translating forms like that community organizations and businesses wanted to offer services to Spanish speakers. So so having resources available that Spanish speakers can read, and then of course learning English. There are a lot of different needs from the Latino community in the area where I was volunteering, and I realized that I want to help people bridge this barrier, the barrier between Spanish and English, because I know that whenever I try to speak with Spanish speakers, even if I'm not perfect, yes, I'm a Spanish teacher, but I don't know every single Spanish thing ever. I do, however, feel that if you can communicate your point and the other person understands it, then you have effectively communicated, whether or not you did it 100% correctly. There's always more to learn. There's always more to improve on, but you can't let that stop you from having a conversation or making an attempt. And I find that anytime I make an attempt, even in the past when I was first learning Spanish, even if they don't understand exactly everything you're saying, like I said, if you can get your point across, people are willing to work with you, and people are generally nice and want to communicate with you. They appreciate you're making an effort to communicate in their language, just like we do whenever someone that English isn't their first language tries to speak to us in English, even if it's broken English. And so I just thought about that fact, and that's kind of how I came up with the name Rompiendo las Barreras. So that means breaking the barriers. That's a literal translation of the name of my business. And that's what I'm trying to do, is help English speakers learn Spanish, be able to communicate comfortably in Spanish, be able to travel, work, have fun, have Spanish-speaking friends, understand movies, understand music, and do all these different things in Spanish so that we can better understand the language, the culture, the people, and have richer interactions and just a richer life. Like how much better do you feel about yourself when you can communicate with someone in their language that you have learned, that you have taken an initiative to learn? It's a really cool thing. So anyway, that's kind of how this all came about. I just wanted to share my perspective a little bit with you, and thank you for watching. I hope to see you to learn some Spanish together online soon. You can schedule a free consultation to chat and see if we're a good fit, and the link to do so is below this video. Thanks for watching.